we have Film of Writing and Culturally Awards Leadership. And now we have Shobna. Please come.
Thank you.
And start the session.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are you feeling this morning? In one word, just go around the table, give me your name, where you're from, and in one word, how you're feeling this morning. May we start with you?
So I share a name. I'm Jaya. And I'm from an organization called NAS Foundation.
Okay.
And I'm really feeling sorry that I missed such a fantastic day. So sorry and excited that at least I can wake up today. So very nice to talk to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you're from Delhi?
Yes.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Shinjini. I'm also from NAS Foundation and I'm really excited to be attending this. I'm very excited to be attending the event today and I'm from Delhi.
Wonderful.
I'm Rashmi Verma, Assistant Professor in Noida International University in Engineering Department. And I'm having international students including Angola, Ethiopia, Thailand, Afghanistan. So I love this profession, teaching. And apart from that, I'm very much interested for women empowerment.
Wonderful.
I'm a certified legal advisor too.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shinjini.
Did you say you were Shinji?
Yeah.
Yes. That's awesome. High five. Virtually. So I'm Shinjini Sengupta. I'm an author. I'm also a speaker. I write literary fictions, but I also write and speak a lot about gender sensitivity in parenting, in working women, glass ceiling. So the gender and social issues, not the gender crimes at the top, but the bottom of the pyramid where it starts. So I'm very actively interested, which brings me here, which brings me take notes in most of the sessions, and try to absorb as much as I can. And that one word should be anticipative, because I'm really looking forward to your session and find the trace of new leadership coming.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. So we're just introducing ourselves and sharing with the group how we feel today.
Oh, I feel excellent. But I feel a bit sad because it's we go to the finish. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm Aurora Martin. I come from Romania. I work for the Romanian government for the National Agency for Equal Opportunities between women and men, supporting women's empowerment.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Divya and I'm an author and founder of Delivers Smile. I work with corporates and college students to bring happiness and resilience. And today I am feeling very excited and curious to learn more.
Awesome. Very nice.
I'm Lalita Jayamadan, and for me the word is proud because this is my sister Snehal. I've seen her from the day she's given up a speech, so to see her, impact a lot of people positively in all the roles that she's filled in her career and as a human being, it makes me feel extremely proud. And I actually am in the publishing industry. I'm a writer, editor, proofreader, researcher, transcriptionist. That's the words within short. So I love to hear how people think and feel and emote. And I basically am an introvert, so I don't express much. But I love to hear how other people think and feel.
Wonderful. And
So you two are sisters?
yes, just my older sister.
I'm Rita from Finland. I feel tremendously good. Partly thanks to India. I'm overwhelmed by the Indian experience, by all the people here. I think it's amazing. Life is good.
Wonderful. So in the last few minutes, people from different parts of the world who have very different journeys, we haven't even scratched, the surface of our lives. I mean, if we were here for the next 24 hours and we opened up and I facilitated a session, by midnight we would all be able to figure out why we are who we are today and what brings us over here. We could have done so many things, but we chose to sign up for this conference, show up here. And then this morning, you made a choice to show up in this particular room. So at any given point, we either in a very conscious or unconscious way, we are making decisions. So you chose to put blue eyeshadow today. She chose to wear a pink sari. You chose to wear a blue dress. You know, you chose to wear a bright red bindi. You chose not to wear a bindi, right? You chose a yellow dress. Every minute you chose lovely earrings, right? So every second of our breathing life, we are making decisions. We don't think we're making big decisions, but every bit of the way, we're making decisions that when it all adds up together, it has a huge impact on our personal lives and impact on the lives around us. So I want to sort of look back at life, because I'm a storyteller, I'm a social worker by trade, right? So I'm not into graphs and, huge research, though I benefit from reading those and learning from those. My true identity is one of a storyteller. And I am absolutely immensely proud and unapologetic of who I am. And one of the traits I have found in all the leaders I admire, whether in politics, whether in the food industry, fashion industry, young, millennial leaders, there are a couple of traits each of us, admire in them. But the one common trait I personally have seen in exceptional leaders is that they are unapologetic of who they are. They take great pride in who they are. It is not to say that they believe they're without flaws. On the contrary, I always laugh and tell my children, you are blessed to have the most flawed mother on the planet. Enjoy it. Leaders are usually very, very mindful of their flaws. So it's not that I'm not without flaws, but I know how to leverage my strengths. And so it's about building on those strengths that you identify. Because a lot of times I've seen, women in general apologizing, saying a lot of sorries. You get into an elevator, someone gets into the elevator and pushes you or elbows you, you end up saying sorry. What are we saying sorry for? I've never understood that phenomenon. Or you walk in on the street and somebody comes with a backpack and whacks you. You turn around and say, sorry. No, it's not yours to say sorry. What did you do wrong? So one of the things I think that's really, really critical for anybody of any age, to be a leader is love yourself unconditionally. Be proud of who you are unapologetically. And don't say sorry unless you've actually done something wrong. Right? So that's sort of one trait that I have seen. The other trait that has fascinated me is positivity. So if I went around the room and I said, if there's one of you who hasn't gone through any experience of adversity, put up your hand. Probably nobody's going to put up their hand. Because all of us have gone through tremendous adversity, right? Whether it's being born with different abilities, whether it's growing up and experiencing mental health issues, losing a partner or a child or a parent, or declaring bankruptcy, or having a serious threat, the theft in your home, where you lost everything. Everybody has gone through adversity. It could be a flood, it could be a tsunami. A lot of times people believe that these things happen on the outside, tsunamis and floods and earthquakes. Throughout our life, personally, internally, we have tsunamis, we have floods, we have earthquakes, and we have droughts. And we survive it, right? Because each of us are, born leaders, right? We may not necessarily walk around saying, hey, I'm a leader and this is my style of leadership. But we're all leaders, right? We take decisions every day. We think strategically. We take little and we make lots out of it. We're all leaders. So I want to just sort of use the next few minutes to talk about a couple of leaders, in quotes, in my life. And what did I learn from them and how did they shape my identity as a leader? So I want to first start with my parents. Dad had a grade 12 education. Mom had a grade 10 education. Both of them loved the idea of getting educated, but did not have the opportunity to do it, like many of our parents and grandparents. At 16, Mom gets married. She was least bit interested in getting married, but family pressure. She got married at the age of 16, leaves the country, goes to a foreign land called Malaysia, and lives there with my dad for 2+ decades, and has 3 children, my sister, myself, and my older brother. Now, generally speaking, we may not think about them as leaders. We
as parents. But to me, they actually had the best leadership qualities that I was exposed to at a very young age. Let me elaborate. When I was 3 years old, I remember my mom and dad sitting me down and explaining to me that when I turned 5, that I was going to go to a boarding school in southern India, in the town of Coimbatore. And that's because there's good English medium schools there, but to get ready to be 5 and to go to boarding school, I needed to get used to a school atmosphere. So what did they do? They constructed a little school inside my home. I had a little table, I had a little chair, and Mom actually had a little bell. And she mimicked the format of a kindergarten for me inside our little home in the town of Seremban in Malaysia. I vividly remember the bell going and I sitting on the bench and Mom teaching me alphabets and numbers. Around 10 o'clock, she would ring the bell and it was my recess, and I had a little bicycle with which I could go over to Dad's office. And Dad would give me sheets of white paper and a couple of pencils. I would come back home and Mom would let me have art time. And I would draw. I love to draw. Not a great artist or anything, but love to draw. And then Mom would put this up somewhere in the house, like near the fridge or on the table. When Dad comes for lunch, I vividly remember my father. He was an absolutely stunning, dark-skinned man with salt and pepper hair like me, and with white shorts, white t-shirt, white socks, white shoes. He would come from the Dunlop's office, come for lunch, look at my drawings, and I remember vividly on a number of occasions from those ages of 3 to 5, where he would say, wow, such a beautiful picture. For me, the best leaders were my parents, and I benefited from their leadership at a very young age. I'm sure that my voice was not the greatest, but every time I sang, they would applaud. Every time I danced, my dad would say, wow, what a fantastic performance. I'm sure it was nothing close to being a good dancer. But that encouragement, that appreciation, at a very young age, gave me such a solid foundation. So that's another type of leadership that you get from my parents. I want to conclude about my parents by just saying one thing. At the age of 5, they made a tough decision, a difficult decision for any parent, and that was to send their 5-year-old to boarding school in a faraway land. I can imagine being a mother of 2 sons myself, how difficult that decision must have been. But let's analyze it for a moment here. It was not like they were millionaires. My parents were lower, middle-class parents, and only one breadwinner who got a small check every month. What they did there was actually showcase that they had what we now call, in the modern 21st century, they had analytical skills. They were able to analyze the future. They were able to analyze the present. They had strategic thinking. They were able to understand that if their children had gone to school in that small town of Bahau in Malaysia, they would have had a bad education and foundation that would not have set them up for success. They had organizational skills. They organized their resources and made sure there was a good chunk of money that could go towards education. I could go on and on and on. In other words, you and I, when we hire people into our teams, we look for a skill set. Our parents, if you look back, had many of those. They're great leaders, natural leaders. We may not call them that. They may not get awards for it. I want to now fast forward. Just take you quickly into 2014. My dad passed away, and our whole family was quite devastated. And as a family, we needed to look after Mom here in India. I was in Canada. And I was struggling about what to do, about to stay in Canada or to come here, when my 14-year-old showcased true leadership. He asked me, what's your problem? I said, well, I'm a single mother and I'm here with both of you, and I want to be here to look after you. But I also would love to be in India, be closer to my sister and my mom, and have her have the care of 2 daughters rather than just, one, because she has her own responsibilities and commitments. But I can be in two places. I have a career, I'm the only breadwinner of the family. So my son said, well, Mom, think about your principles. What are your top 1 or 2 principles? And apply them to the situation. Imagine a teenager guiding you through a very difficult situation and encouraging you to be principled. So I've always told them that I believe that kindness is the one thing you can apply to any situation to make good decisions. What is the kindest thing to do in a situation? It will quickly show you the way. So in that particular situation, what was the kindest thing to do? To be close to Mom. How do you do that? You quit your job, you get on a plane, you move countries. So the 2 children and I moved to Chennai, and then my sister and I were able to look after Mom better within the Indian context that she was used to. Young people, I had the pleasure of working with and knowing a lot of young people from the ages of 13 to 30, 35, the so-called millennials. I have been more inspired and I have learned more from millennials than I have from adults in my life. In the last few years, apart from introducing me to the digital economy and Instagram and cryptocurrency and blockchain and rap music, beyond all of that, millennials have taught me the true meaning of following your dreams and living in the moment. A lot of people think living in the moment is somewhat irresponsible. But when someone says, I'm living in the moment, people almost always think, wow, that's pretty selfish, don't you think? Like, you're living in the moment, just following what you want to do. What about your family? What about your community? What about your country? Well, all of us have traveled in airplanes. What do they say? When there's a problem with the air quality or if there's a tumultuous thing going on there, when the mask falls, make sure you put it on your face first. Even if you have an infant, never put it on your infant, put it on yourself first. If you don't look after yourself, how in the world do you look after others? So when you translate that into teams, what does that really mean? A lot of people I've met believe that being a leader means being tough, being that person who makes extraordinarily difficult decisions. Do I cut the global workforce by 10% or by 11.5%? Do I increase a salary by 0.5% or do I cut the salary by 0.5%? I think the toughest thing for a leader to do, which automatically translates into you being inspiring or being culturally aware, is getting to know the individuals on your team, one person at a time. I wanted to give you 1 or 2 examples. I had the pleasure of being supervised by a wonderful, wonderful leader. His name was Jeremy Berland. His family suffered from the horrific Holocaust, and he lost pretty much all his relatives. And he and his siblings and his mom, through great difficulty, landed in Canada when he was a very young child. He became a social worker, and when I met him, he was the Assistant Deputy Minister at the Ministry for Children and Families in the Government of British Columbia. I was very intimidated by him because he was the Assistant Deputy Minister. So, having grown up in India and being used to saying sir and madam, it took me a while to understand that leaders like you are just your equals. They're just human beings. They just have a different job. They have a different role to play. So when I met Jeremy, the first thing that struck me was that he looked you in the eye. He saw you. He smiled. He said something that acknowledged your presence in the moment. So for example, when he saw me, he said, "Where are you from, Shobna?" Like, "I'm originally from Kerala in South India." "Oh yes, a beautiful part of the country. I've read about it. Very tropical, isn't it?" And said whatever little he knew and made me feel he saw me. He understood where my roots are from. And then another occasion I remember him saying, "So what are you wearing? Like, what is this? Tell me a little bit about, the dot on your fork." So we had a conversation about the bindi and the potter, and what it signifies for me, and a little bit about that. Within a very short period of time, I started to write speeches for Jeremy. He was the assistant deputy minister. I was the analyst. So on a hierarchy, organizational chart, I was like a small fish in a big fish tank, right? And he was the shark, right? If you think about it in a hierarchical way. I wrote his speeches, and once something happened that really transformed my own understanding of what true leadership is. So you know how you write speeches for people? Your sister wrote tons of speeches for me. But whenever I delivered this speech and won a prize, I never said she wrote the speech for me. Or there was not a forum for me to acknowledge her fantastic contributions to my success. So I expected the same from Jeremy. What did Jeremy do? He goes to this event, a big meeting, lots of people from community, from government, social workers. He gave this speech. And I was sitting right across, just listening to him. And he was on a podium, and very wonderful orator, speaking. And then he went off talking about something else. And then he saw me, and he stopped. And he said, "Oops, I'm in deep trouble. Shobana, who wrote my speech, doesn't seem happy I've gone off script. Let me get back on track here." And people laughed, and they looked at me, and they just chuckled. What did he do in that moment? He didn't have to say that at all. He's the assistant deputy minister. He can speak about anything for however long he wants. What did he do in that moment? In that moment, he recognized an individual, a professional, who works for him, with him, on his team, who's 4 levels, 5 levels beneath him. He acknowledged this individual is the reason I am speaking and saying all those good things you're hearing. Acknowledgement and gratitude is the second thing I want to touch on. The trait I've seen across the board with great leaders, whether they're young children, who are in charge of the recycling project in their school, or a little girl who's putting up an art exhibition because she wants to, save the turtles of the world. It doesn't matter. Or a young person who's concerned about, the lack of menstrual products in schools, or a CEO of a company, right, who's running a multi-billion-dollar business. They're exceptional leaders, inspiring leaders, and culturally aware leaders when they see the person in front of them, they hear the person in front of them, and they treat them as their equals, and they're not afraid to say, "Thank you for the great speech you just wrote. Thank you for the briefing note you just wrote. Thank you for remembering those gifts. Thank you, gifts for the team for Christmas that you went and purchased." They come down and stay on the ground with you as equals. It's a beautiful trait. I want to quickly touch on something because I want to turn this into a little bit of an interactive session. I want to just touch on the culturally aware piece. Because a lot of times people wonder, what exactly is that? Like, what do you mean culturally aware? Well, there's many connotations, there's many interpretations for it. Each leader figures it out, in a different way. A very simple example would be a government. So let's say I'm from Vancouver. So the government of British Columbia, and the government of Canada for that matter, they take a great deal of trouble and make a great deal of effort to make sure that the very multicultural population of Canada feels welcomed and feels honored for their cultural diversity. So it could be sending messages out, happy Diwali, happy Vaisakhi, happy Tamil New Year. It could be, wishing people around the world different greetings because of the different cultural backgrounds we have in Canada. That is being cultural aware. You understand that you have a mosaic, not a melting pot. You appreciate that mosaic, and then you highlight and enhance that mosaic through cultural policies, through programming, through signs, flags that might be flying at different points to welcome people. I want to just take it to another level, another kind of a spectrum, being culturally aware. So imagine you have a team. I have that right now. I have a team, a small team called Government Relations, and it's made up of 3 individuals. One has their roots two have their roots in Europe, one has their roots in India, and then there is me. We have a number of Canadians born and raised in Canada working around us. It's a very, very diverse group. So one of the things culturally aware means for me is trying to put myself in their shoes and trying to see what they would see when I act, behave, or speak in a certain way. So a simple example would be, in certain contexts, if you walk into a room with your teammates and say, hey everybody, we got a deadline today at 4 o'clock. There's 4 of you, I've got 4 sheets of paper, this is what you need to deliver by 3 o'clock today, and let's have a team meeting at 3, get it done by 4, thank you, have a good day. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, a culturally aware way of doing it, is to meet in the morning, find out how everyone is doing. I know that somebody is from Sri Lanka, and let's say in the news I heard that they had a terrible flood in Sri Lanka. Start off the meeting and say, hey, how's everyone doing? You notice that this individual looks a little bit quieter today. Let's just call her Radha. Say, hey Radha, you seem a bit pensive this morning. Is everything okay? And I read the news about the floods in Sri Lanka. Is your family okay today? The person is invited to open up and speak. Could be another individual is going through a divorce on the team, and you happen to know about it. You know that it's court day today. The person could have a high level of anxiety. You get the team together, you give them a couple of minutes to open up at a very human level. And then you basically say, I'm available to you anytime during the day should you need to talk. If my door is closed, send me a text and I will step out to talk to you. I want to take 2 minutes to talk about a deadline we have at 4 o'clock today. We have a number of things to do. Rather than tell you all what to do, I'm putting a list of things that need to get done. I want the 4 of you to spend a few minutes to put your name beside the tasks that you would like to see completed today. And as a group, decide how you're going to divide the work. Support one another. Please slip that paper under my door within 30 minutes before I go into the meeting. There's many ways you can get the job done. The culturally aware and the inspiring way is where you don't tell people what to do and you don't presume you know the best way to do it. You work with people, you co-create, you collaborate, and you inspire the team to collectively get to the destination we all need to get at. Now this is not to say that there are times when we don't have to make tough calls. Of course we have to make tough calls as leaders, and some of them are uncomfortable tough calls. But how you do it is what makes the difference. The more culturally aware and the more inspiring that you are, and the more humble that you are as a leader, you can make those tough calls and deliver the bad news and make those tough decisions in a more humane, compassionate, and effective way. Because in the end of the day, I think we all agree, the only thing we really remember, based on all the jobs we've done, all the bosses we've worked for, all the companies we've worked for, the only thing we really remember is how we were treated. People forget the projects they worked on, or the number of hours they took sick leave, or the bonus they got at the end of the year. But they remember how they were treated. Good, bad, they would remember. So I want to conclude, and I want to open it up for a few questions. How does one become effective, inspiring, and culturally aware? Like everything else, in order to have beautiful flowers in your garden, you've got to take care of the soil. You've got to nurture it. You've got to understand the conditions of your little geographical context. Do some research, what grows best in that soil. Then you plant it. You patiently wait for it to grow. You water it. You protect it. Teams are the same. But in order for one to be an effective, inspiring, and a culturally aware leader, a lot of work has to happen on the inside. We have to give ourselves time, we have to give ourselves love, and we have to give ourselves lots of opportunities for continuous learning, because life never stops teaching. And I'm not just talking about being at the top of the page on the digital economy and where the future is going and how artificial intelligence is going to take over conflict resolution. I'm not talking about all those kinds of major disruptions and changes. Of course, we have to be aware of all of that. But we need to have a great deal of mindfulness and a love for our own selves, kindness to our own selves, in order for us to be able to give it back to our teams, so that collectively we're not just a team, but we're an inspired team. We're a high-performing team. It's a place where people want to get up and come to work, where your team member says, I have a really bad cold and a throbbing headache. I think it's turning into a migraine very shortly. But I've taken medication and I'm going to be able to work for 4 or 5 hours and then I might go home. But I wanted to be here today. Right? You have people who choose to show up to work. And when they do that, it's because they are part of teams where the leadership is not just effective and inspiring, but also very culturally aware. So I just want to conclude, by saying it's just like everything else in life. We have good health because we're self-aware. We make the effort to eat good, to take care of ourselves, to exercise. We have clean cars or clean motorbikes or bicycles because we take trouble in making decisions around what we buy, how we clean it up, we take it for servicing, we put gas when the gas runs out. Everything in life that is doing well or performing well, behind it has thinking, has self-care, has pride, has humility, has love, has kindness, and a great deal of mindfulness. So if you could pull everything together, what I've just shared, and you say, pick one thing that you think leaders need to have to be superheroes, I would say it's mindfulness. That, I think, is the game changer. Mindfulness. Because when you're mindful and self-aware, you're mindful and aware of others. You don't just see somebody, you see Lalita. You see the person who presents themselves in front of you to be part of your team, to be part of your journey. So I wish you all a wonderful leadership journey, and I think we have 5 minutes. So I am going to invite you into this conversation, and I'm going to ask you to take 30 seconds to share an event or something that happened in your life where you believe you demonstrated true leadership. It could be personal, it could be anything. Take 30 seconds and say, this happened, and in this moment, I think I was a leader. Who wants to get started? There's no right or wrong answer. If nobody volunteers, it'll be whose birthday is this week. Do we have a birthday girl in the house? This month? Any birthdays? Ah.
No, not my birthday, but I'll...
okay, great.
I'll not give my example. I will give example of my 9-year-old son. So, he was in his class, he's in grade 4, and one of the students just hit him in the eye and it got swollen. And he came home, and my husband is a very aggressive guy, being from Delhi and some roots in Bihar as well. So he's very aggressive, and my husband was like, why did you take that? You should have hit him back. And then my son told him that then what will be the difference between me and him if I do the same? And I'm very proud to say that today that guy is my son's best friend. Next day he came home and he's like, Mama, he said sorry to me and I forgave him. Again my husband comes home and he's like, how can you do this? You are showing that you are a coward. And my son says, Papa, have you heard of the word forgiveness? And today they both of them are best friends. His teacher called me to tell me this, that he is getting along so well with him, and it just shows the maturity in the child that he didn't retaliate, ran, made him best friends. So I think that's
amazing. That's a beautiful story. And that is like, and that's what I said, like we can learn about leadership from the youngest and the oldest, right? Provided we are open to it. I think we are running out of time, and our friend at the back has been patiently putting up her hand.
No, I actually was finding it very difficult to put it in 30 seconds, but you gave me inspiration. So I'll give you a very quick example from just yesterday afternoon. When I was waiting at the lobby for the Uber to come to take me back home, Naina Lal Kidwai had just entered and she was kind of, trying to find her way out, and she asked me, which way to go, etc. So I just obviously, told her that I really admire you very much. So she just in the same way, she looked back at me in the eye and said that, when are you speaking and what are you talking on? And I told her that I'm an actuary and I'm going to talk about conducive workplaces for women, etc. I already spoke about, so I told her. And just as I told her that, it's a shame I'll miss your talk because I have to go back now, she said that it's a miss exactly as much that I didn't get to hear.
Wow. Absolutely.
I mean, love
Wonderful.
seriously.
I think we're running out of time, so
Yeah,
we
sure.
unfortunately don't have time to share from around the table, but I want to take a moment to thank you all for making the choice to come here this morning. It's been a great honor, and all of you are truly inspiring, and I hope we meet again at the next WEF, wherever that is. And let's take a group picture and celebrate this moment. So thank you all.
Ma'am, please say
I'll call you photographer.
I got photographed so that you can
Okay, yeah. So we have a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Time hai abhi? Khatam ho chuki hai. Okay. Yeah. So we'll just chat and we'll take a photo when this is done.
What's happening?
No, this is going to get the photographer to just take a group picture.
So very inspiring.
Thank you. I wish we had more time. Thank you.